So solving quadratic equations is similar to solving any equations, but when we're solving by graphing, really what we're looking for is where does the equation hit the x-axis. That's what we mean when we're solving a quadratic equation. Now the difference between a quadratic function and a quadratic equation is a quadratic function would be written as y equals then something like x squared plus 3x. Or you could write it as f at x, which we'll get to later, equals x squared plus 3 at x, where we have the function of x. Whereas a quadratic equation is going to be something like 0 equals x squared plus 3x. Okay, it's given, we can actually now solve for those x values because the 0 is there. We can create any value and then rearrange it so that we have its 0 equals and write it in what we know as standard form. So if we're solving by graphing, that's exactly what we want to do. But the first thing we want to do is put our quadratic into vertex form so that we can graph it. Okay, so if we are looking at this equation here, we're going to put every value onto one side. So we're going to get x squared minus 3x plus 2 equals 0. So we've rearranged the equation and then just made it look a little nicer. We would then complete the square. So we're going to have x squared minus 3x. This would be plus half of 3x is going to give me 3 over 2. 3 over 2 squared is 9 over 4 plus 2 minus 9 over 4. And then we're going to have our perfect square, which would be minus, and I'm just going to put it as a decimal, 1.5 squared. And then this would be, what's that? Minus 0.25. Okay, equals 0. We would plug our values in here. So we're going to have minus 0.25, so it's going to be somewhere right in here. And we would go over 1, up 1. Oh, which would be right there, over 2, up 4 would be, what are we at here? We're down 0.5, so it would be in this neighborhood. And right there. Graph it. We would find our intercepts and we would plug them into our equation to check our answers. Okay, if we're looking at this, so after we've solved by graphing, we look at how many solutions we can have. The most common one would be 2 solutions. We have this and this, or the graph could look like that, where we have 2 solutions. It goes through the x-axis twice. The other 2 variations are when it's just hitting the x-axis one time, so like that or like this, or if it's hitting the x-axis 0 times, where it's like this, or it could be like that. Those are the only different options that we have, and we're going to look at that a lot more when we start solving these algebraically.